There's a kind of beauty that is dangerous because it doesn't know its own temperature. It wants to shine, but it forgets that to shine without a source is to burn. And in the ancient texts, that ambition has a name. We often think of the devil as a monster, a creature of horns and shadows hiding in the dark. But here's the detail people get wrong. The story doesn't start in the dark. It starts in blinding, perfect light. It starts with the most beautiful creature ever made, looking at his own reflection and deciding it wasn't enough to reflect the light. He wanted to be it. This isn't just a story about rebellion. It's a tragedy about gravity. The moment the morning star became a falling meteor. Tonight, we're opening a Myth Lantern case file on Lucifer, the entity who traded a position of absolute proximity for a kingdom of absolute isolation. We start with the architecture of his perfection, the wings, the gemstones, the music woven into his very being. Then we trace the trigger, the 5 impossible declarations that broke the harmony of heaven. And we end with the brutal irony of his new form, a being made of light, condemned to a place where the fire gives no illumination. From the height of the morning star to the depth of the pit. The descent isn't just physical, it's a disintegration of identity. To understand the fall, you have to understand the height. And the height was staggering. Before he was the adversary, he was Helel ben Sahar, the Shining One, son of the dawn. The texts in Ezekiel describe him not just as an angel, but as the seal of perfection. This is a crucial distinction. He wasn't a foot soldier, he was the masterpiece. The imagery here is sensory and overwhelming. The text says every precious stone was his covering. The sardius, topaz, and diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper. He wasn't just wearing jewelry, he refracted light. He was a living prism. When the light of the divine hit him, he didn't just reflect it white, he broke it into a spectrum of impossible color. Visual, close up on a diamond refracting a beam of light, splitting it into rainbows. And it wasn't just sight, it was sound. The ancient Hebrew suggests that tabrets and pipes were prepared in him on the day he was created. He was a wind instrument, a living organ pipe designed to resonate with the frequency of the divine throne. He was the anointed cherub who covers. He stood in the very center of the fire, the closest entity to the source of all power, and he didn't burn. That was his privilege. To stand in the furnace of absolute authority and remain cool, beautiful, and composed. He was the blueprint of celestial hierarchy. Wise, beautiful, perfect in his ways. But perfection has a flaw that imperfection doesn't. It has nowhere to go but down. So, what breaks a masterpiece? It wasn't a war at first, it was a thought. The trigger isn't a battle, it's a shift in focus. The narrative in Isaiah chapter 14 gives us the autopsy of this shift. It records 5 specific statements, the I wills of Lucifer. I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Notice the pattern. It's the birth of the ego. Before this moment, his existence was outward-facing, reflecting the glory of his Creator. But here, the prism turns inward. He stops looking at the light and starts looking at the lens. He became intoxicated with his own beauty. Ezekiel writes, "Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor." This is the tragedy of the falling star. He mistook his reflection for the source. He thought the light was coming from him, rather than through him. It's the ultimate narcissism, the belief that the moon creates the daylight. And the moment he claimed ownership of that light, the circuit broke. You cannot generate your own existence. The I will was a declaration of war against reality itself. He wanted to be the center of gravity in a universe that already had one. The escalation is swift. It's described as a war in heaven, but don't imagine swords and shields in the human sense. This was a conflict of natures. Revelation describes Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. But the Hebrew and Greek implications suggest a battle of authority, a judicial expulsion. It was the immune system of the cosmos rejecting a cancer. Here is where the visual transformation happens. The text says, "He was cast as profane from the mountain of God." Jesus later describes this event with a single, terrifying sentence. "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." Lightning is fast, it's violent, it's a tear in the sky. One moment, he is the covering cherub, the slow, majestic music of the spheres. The next, he is a streak of electricity, ejected from the sanctuary. The fire that once warmed him, the stones of fire he walked among, now turned against him. The friction of his fall ignited the atmosphere of his own pride. The beauty didn't vanish, it corrupted. The wings that were meant to soar became the wings of a bat, leathery, designed for navigating the dark, sensitive to echoes rather than light. He took a third of the stars with him, a third of the angelic host caught in the wake of his gravity. They traded their position for his promise, and they fell into a silence that had never existed for them before. But here's the variant, the angle where human storytelling tries to reclaim him. In literature, specifically in Milton's Paradise Lost, Lucifer is painted with a brush of tragic romance. He becomes the ultimate anti-hero, the being who would rather reign in hell than serve in heaven. We are drawn to this version. We like the idea of the rebel who stands up to tyranny. We romanticize the fall as a bid for freedom. We see the charred wings and we think of resilience. But the mythological reality is colder. The freedom he bought was a vacuum. In the ancient worldview, cutting yourself off from the source of life doesn't make you independent. It makes you dead. The variant suggests he kept his dignity. The lantern shows us he only kept his pride. And pride, when stripped of power, is just a festering wound. He didn't build a new kingdom. He just dug a hole in the basement of the old one. So what is the haunting consequence? What is the price of wanting to be God? The price isn't just pain, it's the loss of the capacity for light. The name changes. He goes from Helel, light-bearer, to Satan, the adversary. He defines himself entirely by what he is against, not what he is for. He becomes a creature of reaction. And the fire? The fire of hell in these myths isn't just about burning skin. It's a spiritual representation of unfulfilled desire. It's the burning of a hunger that can never be fed. He wanted to be the center. Now he is the furthest point from it. He wanted to be seen by everyone. Now he operates in the shadows. The irony is brutal. The being made of diamonds is now the Prince of Darkness. The voice that was an orchestra is now a whisper of accusation. He didn't just lose his home. He lost his nature. There's a modern mirror here, and it's quiet. We live in an age of the I will. We curate our own images, polish our own reflections, and build platforms to ascend above the heights of the clouds. We want to be the main character. We want the light to originate from us. The myth of Lucifer is a warning about the toxicity of self-obsession. It tells us that you can be beautiful, wise, and talented, and still destroy yourself if you fall in love with your own press release. The fall happens the moment you think you don't need the source anymore, the moment you think the gift is actually the generator. It's the belief that you can hold fire without getting burned, as long as you're the one holding the match. Maybe that's why this story survives. Because Lucifer isn't just a fallen angel in a myth. He's the shape of a human impulse. The belief that if we climb high enough, we become the view. He traded everything for autonomy, a throne, a title, and still the silence is deafening. Because the lantern doesn't erase the dark, it only shows you what's already there. And in his case, it shows that the brightest light casts the longest shadow.